Well, hey, it's Rob, and I touched on this in my last video, and maybe this is a video that nobody really wants to see, maybe for historic interest only, but it really is an interesting topic, and it was an interesting experience as I walked through all the leaves down here, and I had to endure this as well as many of my fellow workers in the film and TV business. So this is a video about how the film and TV industry dealt with COVID. It's really pretty amazing in hindsight to see what we went through to ensure that we could all get back to work. So of course, 2020, February, March, COVID hit, and we were knocked for a loop and nobody had any jobs. But we quickly started to come up with these, plans to get the workforce, up and working again, because this was during the streaming wars and production was booming and nobody wanted to lose out on that money. So we started all these new policies, procedures in place, and got people back quickly to work during the COVID era. Matter of fact, those were my best years in film production, 2020, 21, 22, because like I said, we found a way just to get back to work and to work safely. And, sure, people still caught COVID, but we were able to remediate a lot of the negative effects of that horrible disease. So what did we do in film and TV? Well, we started all these training programs. We'd have to watch videos. We'd have to learn about, contact tracing and, safe, work procedures. And if we felt sick, don't go in, and washing your hands and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the big shows started this zone system where you would have a badge. It would be red, green, blue, or whatever, and you could only be in a certain zone. So if you worked in the offices, you didn't come on set. If you worked on the set, you didn't go in the offices, that kind of thing. So that's one of the things we did. We had all sorts of different crazy ideas that kind of came and went over the years as far as how to keep people separated. When you got in the work van, I talked about this in the other video, some of them had plastic sheeting that was supposed to protect us. None of these things really seemed like they were going to work, but hey, it got us back to work. So what can I say? You would go eat, and normally, of course, you would have this huge table of all the snacks and everything you could grab. Well, that didn't happen during COVID. You had to point out or tell the person, the craft service person, hey, I want one Hershey bar, one bag of chips, and they would be the only person to touch it. It was really good for losing weight because you'd be embarrassed having to ask for all this stuff that you normally would just grab and go. During the meals, they did a lot of bag lunches. We, of course, on bigger films are used to just having a buffet and a huge variety of options. You could have chicken or fish or steak or who knows what. In the morning, they'll make you burritos. I mean, it's really a way to get very fat if you want to work in the film business. But during COVID, it was all bag lunches. You didn't really have a choice. Sometimes you could order or whatever and check off what you wanted. Sometimes you'd get it. Sometimes you didn't. But so we had to adapt, in all ways to what we were doing on set as far as getting picked up, where you sat. We'd have tables with dividers and kind of things like that were ridiculous. None of it really seemed like it was going to work. They were pumping air and disinfectant and I don't know what, cleaning the sets all the time. We had a vast number of people who all of a sudden had these jobs as COVID compliance officers, and their job, of course, was to tell you were standing too close to someone, or can I give you a mask? Can I, give you some hand sanitizer or whatever? Kept a lot of people working, though. It was very good in that aspect, despite the fact that it was a horrible disease and all that. Testing regimens were crazy. I probably tested 300 or 400 times, in the course of the film work I was doing. I mentioned that Walking Dead, which was a very interesting test case because it was a show for 11 years about a zombie invasion, and they basically just adapted that to the COVID invasion. And, they pretty much acted the same way they, would have if you were on the show trying to get away from zombies or whatever. The production team was trying to stay away from COVID. So you would have to test 3 times before you worked one day. So if you were working on a Thursday, you test Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. For me, it's a long drive. It's pretty much all you could do that day. But they paid $250 each test. So it started to add up. Just the testing fees, you would start to be making some decent money. And sometimes they would test you even if they didn't know they needed you or not. You'd be on standby. You'd just be a person who had been tested and cleared so that they knew they could call you if they needed you. Walking Dead. I think I can talk about it now because it's not a show anymore. I'm not giving anything away, but you would show up at a gate. They would take you down this road. You'd get in a line. You'd go to this little shack. The guy would stick the thing up your nose. Back in your car. Immediately you would leave. You know, you wouldn't have any exposure to anybody else on the set or anything like that. And it was, you know, really interesting. Like I said, if you think about some of the things you saw on the show The Walking Dead, that they were implementing a lot of those same procedures to keep us all safe during COVID. So I had a ridiculous experience once where they drove me and the camera guy out in a huge Sprinter van on one of those reality shows, Housewives or whatever. I think we were going to Charleston. And then as soon as we got there, they found out he had been exposed to COVID on another show. So he had to go home, and it was just the production assistant and me in this giant 15-passenger van. He drove me all the way from Charleston back to Atlanta by myself in that van. Crazy stuff. But that's what we did to keep working. In the beginning, the testing was brutal. I was working on a home improvement show, and we had 2 lines, and one of the nurses was like Nurse Ratchet. He was just shoving that thing up. It was, you know, tickling your brain or whatever. So we quickly figured out which line to get in. I mean, the tests were really brutal at first, and then towards the end, they finally realized, well, we don't have to go up that far, or the test got better, or whatever. But those are pretty much the techniques we used during COVID. Eventually, of course, you started to show up on shows, and they weren't worried about you so much wearing a face shield or a mask or whatever, and it kind of tapered off as the disease started to taper off, and the variants got, you know, less deadly. But we adapted very quickly. It was really pretty impressive, and it was a whole production line of just, you know, people ensuring that you were being safe. We used to have to wear these badges with these flashing lights or something. If you got too close to someone, you know you had to step away. They tried everything, but the bottom line was we kept working, and those were great years to be working in the film and TV industry. Not so much today, sadly. All right, well, for you know, posterity's sake, I'm going to save all these little COVID stories. Maybe one day I'll look back on these. Who knows? I'd rather just forget about it altogether. But it was very interesting how we were able to keep working and keep the machine cranking back during the good old days of COVID. All right, later.